The resiliency you have to have and being on a team, your team is relying on you. If you let a goal in, you have to let it go. Because if you don't let it go and you don't focus on the next thing, well, then you're going to get in your own head and then more is going to come. Well, I feel like that can really relate to business.
Take it to the top.
Hey, I'm Gianna Cambria, and this is the Upper Hand Podcast, where we go deep into the minds of athletes and fitness pros turned entrepreneurs to show you how to translate your competitive edge on the field and in the gym to gain the upper hand in your business. Welcome back to the Upper Hand Podcast. Gianna Cambria here, and today's guest is Tyler Ross. Now, Tyler is extremely knowledgeable and very experienced personal trainer, and currently he's the founder of LVL UP Fitness, Boca's new premier group strength training program set to open up in June. So we'll talk all about that once we get to it. Now, I don't know if he knows this or not, but I actually owe a lot to Tyler myself. So Tyler was my very first Orange Theory fitness coach. And in my first couple of months of really starting that workout, he was my coach over at the Waterford Lakes location. So he was really kind of the catalyst for me in making fitness a lifelong habit, but also it's something that I eventually built up a career on with Orange Theory. So I owe a lot to Tyler, super grateful to him. It's awesome to catch back up. A lot to unpack with his journey from, personal trainer, even a background as an athlete, and how that all kind of filters into what he's doing now with blazing his own trail. So excited to dive into that. Tyler, go ahead and say hey, and we'll jump right in.
Hey, Gianna, thank you so much for having me on. It's funny. I tend to forget that was like our first interaction was you being like your first time at Orange Theory and me being your coach. And that was shortly after I had just, gotten started with the brand and, getting things going. And it's funny from where we were both back then to where we are now. I mean, God, that was, almost 8-9 years ago. It's crazy to see how things have changed. Yeah,
absolutely. Cool. So to get us started here, what's one thing that most people don't know about you?
So that's actually a funny question because I feel like people know a lot about me. I'm pretty much an open book. I feel for the most part. I don't really have too many things that. What's one thing? I guess the one thing would be my degree in college. I actually graduated with a social science degree of anthropology. Believe it or not, I went to school thinking I wanted to do more of like the social science. I wanted to be a professor. I had this whole idea and everything. And basically, well, first off, I was undeclared for almost 2.5 years. I'm like, you have to pick a major. I'm like, all right, fine. I'll pick something that's I'm mildly interested in. And I was still working out and training at the time. So I was still doing that. But so I guess that would be the one thing that people don't know is I'm actually kind of a geek when it comes to that kind of stuff. But, obviously the fitness is more my passion and what I do as a career. So.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I couldn't remember what it was. I was thinking geography. I remember that was like one of our first conversations. But yeah, so.
I tell people that and they're always thrown off. They're like, I was not expecting that from you at all. I'm like, honestly, me neither. Like it's one thing I kind of just like leave in the back burner. Yeah. It's funny how all those things add up to somehow to where we are now, right? My degree was in economics. So kind of a similar situation, but yeah. Awesome. Opportunities. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So tell us about your journey. Cause I know you have a background in sports right through high school and kind of growing up with that. And then how did you ultimately get into that? How did you get into fitness and how did that lead you to where you are now?
Yeah, so basically growing up, I was deemed what they would call husky. It was basically what they would call fat kids without actually calling them fat. They would call us husky. And I didn't like that. So my dad bought me a pair of 5-pound dumbbells and he taught me how to do some like lateral raises and bench press in the living room. And I just started working out, I think when I was like, 11 or 12. I mean, I was a kid. I was really young because I didn't want to look that way. And, doing those types of things obviously helped with sports because one thing, and, not to make this too fitness related, but, I don't think people move enough. And I think one thing that people need to do is just go through simple movement patterns. And I think that's one thing I did as a kid. And one thing I think a lot of kids actually need to do is they need to kind of start, moving early at an early age and just doing, whether it's, shoulder presses, whether it's squats, whether it's proper push-ups, these are all things that I think I learned and it helped translate into sports where I was not athletic growing up. I became athletic like once I kind of got into high school and I eventually figured it out. And, through the years now, just over and over doing, exercise and playing sports, playing soccer, playing football, all that stuff, I think it kind of helped me into the athlete that I am today. So for people, for a lot of kids and younger people saying, hey, I'm not that athletic, hey, give yourself some time, practice it. And I bet you could probably get it.
And it's funny you say that because we talk about this a lot in the Orange Theory world, right? It's like, I think the stats were running is one of the highest injury prone sports, which is funny because we all take that for granted as like, well, yeah, I know how to run, but in an Orange Theory setting, especially right where you have those different areas, the treadmill is the one that's the least watched, but also one of the highest where they can injure themselves. And it's, I think we take it for granted that we should be able to move and know how to move, but we really don't unless we go through those patterns.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, to, kind of come back to your question, where I came from is I think, learning, not realizing that's what I was doing when I was a kid, but having that practice go on and on throughout my life. And now, I'm turning 32 this year. I've applied all those things year over year over year. And now it's the point where I'm like an expert at this kind of stuff. I feel very confident when I'm instructing somebody else. I feel confident when I'm training myself. But yeah, going back to my history, I played sports all through high school, went to college. I actually got a job at my university's rec and wellness center. I taught classes there. I was teaching like boot camps, stadium runs, ab classes, that kind of stuff. Eventually graduated UCF. You can finish, eventually graduated, got a job at Orange Theory over at the Waterford Lakes location. And then that was the last bit of my history for the last 8-9 years, was working within that brand. Moving down to South Florida. I mean, a lot of opportunity down here to meet a lot of people. So it's been a really great journey. It's been very educational, and I'm just very excited that now I can kind of take what I've learned and apply it to my next stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're growing up, you figure out, you find this affinity for fitness through your own path. You start playing sports in high school, you start working for Orange Theory. When was the moment where, because I don't know, maybe we didn't talk about this, but I don't think there ever was that moment of like, I'm going to start my own thing when I knew you. So when was the moment, the catalyst where you're like, I want to open my own gym?
Probably COVID. No,
okay.
I mean, I'll say COVID, I think, was the catalyst to get me to really do it. The idea for my own thing, I think with being a personal trainer, and I know it's not the norm of what you're probably used to speaking to with entrepreneurs, but most personal trainers are usually in for business for themselves. It's kind of the opposite path that most entrepreneurs take, where they're working in the business with somebody and then they leave and do their own thing. Well, with a personal trainer, you kind of start as your own thing because you're a service, and that's all you can do is provide the service for somebody, and you try to build that into something else and bigger. So that's kind of the path I'm on. I kind of started off with the, I did my own thing, and now I'm trying to make it into something else. So I think there wasn't necessarily a moment. It was just more like, this is the next thing I need to do to be able to help more people, be able to, to get my knowledge out there of what I know, and obviously, make a business. So.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. Can you actually talk a little bit more about that? Because I think, right, even when you were at UCF and you were at Orange Theory, you were still training private clients. So you were kind of in this grind mode, hustling, right? Talk about what that's like for you in terms of building a network or getting the word out for yourself, right? When it's just you and you have to rely on you and marketing and, at the same time running these programs and all of that. How did you balance that?
Yeah, I think you have to do that. I think, you're not really an entrepreneur unless you are doing 2 or 3 things all at once. And,
right.
While they all might be related, they're all kind of different in a way. So yes, I was teaching classes at the same time, but, being a coach, your cap is only so many classes. You can only teach so much in a week before you're completely exhausted. You don't have anything left to give because your brain is going, there's so much energy. You're trying to get everybody hyped up, and you're doing that for hours on end. To go to personal training, obviously you could do that all day long. It's 1, maybe 2 people at a time. For me, it was a no-brainer that I had to do it at the same time during like my off hours when I wasn't teaching. And I think that's very important because it really hones in on your skill as an instructor, and I don't know how many people listening are actually instructors, but if you're teaching any type of a fitness class, you need to look at that class as your own individual business. Because everything you do, from your from how you present yourself to the way you interact with those clients in that class, it's kind of like you running like your own storefront in a way. You want everybody leaving there saying that was the great workout because of what that coach provided for me. And I don't think enough people have that, maybe either kind of pride or have that type of whatever it is, that kind of know-it-all to do that in that moment. And I think that can apply to most businesses. If you have somebody that's coming into your storefront, you're trying to sell them something, I think you're on stage in that moment. And I don't think enough people seize that opportunity,
And that is such a good point, taking ownership of that, even in a situation where you might be working for somebody else and coaching classes and having people come in the door, not on your own marketing dollars, but on the company's, but even still, taking that ownership. There's so much more that can be done with that. So Definitely translates into what you're doing now. And I think this is a great place to segue too, because before we jumped into the interview today, we were talking about your experience in soccer, right? And you played goalie and kind of how that mindset translates into what you're doing now. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So you and I were mentioning, just talking about sports and the resiliency you have to have and being on a team, your team is relying on you. Well, if you're a goalkeeper, a goalie, and I played goalkeeper in soccer, but I know people play goalie in hockey. I mean, there's that position in particular. It's very different because it's not like any other position on the field or the pitch or whatever. It's you're in your own space, you're in your own head the entire game. No one else is back there to talk to you. If you let a goal in, you have to let it go, because if you don't let it go and you don't focus on the next thing, well, then you're going to get in your own head and then more is going to come. Well, I feel like that can really relate to business, because if you are, if you're ignoring a lot of the problems that you are facing in your business, things you don't want to take care of right then and there that need to be taken care of, eventually other things will start to fall to the wayside and the whole thing will start to collapse. Well, that's, I think kind of relates back to goalkeeping. If you stop playing your A game for even a second, that could be the second that the ball goes by you. So it's very important that, you're very focused in that sense, that that's why I like that sport so much. And I think that's why I enjoy that position so much, because it always kind of keeps me with that edge.
Yeah, the thing that stands out to me there too is the mental resiliency that's required, right? Where, hey, okay, you're gonna miss or you're gonna get scored on, and you have to find a way to drop that and let that go. And that is entrepreneurship in its finest, right? Especially when it's just you in the beginning. So, do you have any tips or things that you go through for those mental ups and downs that you've surely run into, especially on this process of building your own gym?
Yeah, what do I do? I'm already a pretty positive person. I'm one of those people where and one thing, and I try to tell people is, whatever your business is, just look at it from a simplistic view. What I tell my trainers is, hey, you know what, you're working in a gym, you're a trainer. At the very end of the day, you want someone to come in here, you want to give them a good workout, you want them to leave feeling good. That's you're a store owner, you want them to come in, you want to buy something and leave. That's the end goal. So I think people tend to overcomplicate things, and they think they need to do more than they need to, and everything has to be perfect. And you've heard that story before with old entrepreneurs that, not everything has to be perfect, just start. Well, there's a lot to that. A lot of it's just, just do it. And, don't get in your own head when things do start to go south. Just continue to just press on and just do your job to the fullest, and be a business owner in that moment.
Yeah. And knowing that, waves are going to come, right? The ups and downs are part of anything we do in life. And so just being ready for that and continuing to stick to the basics and move forward, taking the next step. I think that's really important.
100%. Always just coming back to what you got into business for in the first place. Come back to your passion, because hopefully the job you're doing, hopefully you're passionate about it. Hopefully you care about it enough to where you want it to succeed. And, give it your all when you're in that moment, and don't let any of those opportunities squander, because as we saw over the last 2 years, the amount of opportunities we had prior to COVID, and then all of a sudden everything evaporates in one fell swoop. Well, now we have to really grind to get these people back into our services, to get people to buy our products again, and to be the entrepreneurs we want to be. I feel like we have to really fight for it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious to see too, on a totally different note, with, COVID coming on board the way that it did and what we saw in the fitness industry, what are you seeing as someone that is now opening up your own physical front? Right? Are you seeing a trend of people getting back into the space of going back to a gym? Are they kind of mixed mode between working out at home and going to a gym, or what are you seeing there?
Great question. People are definitely going back to gyms. Without a doubt, people are flying back to gyms. You can see it in the stock prices of some of those some of the online stuff. Like with your Pelotons, and I know there's a bunch of other ones out there, but Peloton being the big one that comes to mind. You see that the shift of people where that's still going to be around. Like the Peloton's not going anywhere. It's a fantastic brand. What they have going is genius. But that being said, people have to have that interaction. They have to have the people around them. I think it's very important to have a group environment, especially when you're doing something physically challenging, because working out sucks. It's hard. It's tough. It hurts. And I think to have people around you doing the same thing and kind of in pain with you, I think there's something very empowering with that. And I think a lot of people need that. So while the online thing is not going anywhere, I think that will still be around. I think in-person gyms is still where it's going to be at, leading into the future. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. I agree with you completely. I think that level of community and interaction that you're getting from a coach in person is going to be unmatched. Now, I think if we look at, Peloton, have they figured out how to create this sense of community virtually? Absolutely. I think they're one of the best at it, but I still think there is just something different, right? About even I had the chance to take a Peloton class live in New York City, and it was a completely different experience than,
cool.
in my garage. Yeah, it was really cool. It was fun. I think it's actually my first ever Peloton class. So I didn't know anything else before that going into it, but there's just a totally different level of energy and experience with that. So I think it is around to stay, but
Sure.
Okay. So let's back up a little bit. So COVID hits, you decide that, okay, I'm going to take what I've been doing and the programming I've been doing one-on-one and what I've learned with Orange Theory and my other experience, and I'm going to create my own thing. Can you walk us through kind of the process of that journey, what that looks like?
Like, what do you mean? As far as like, for me, like leaving Orange Theory and then now kind of what I'm doing here, or?
Just starting Level Up. What was that process like?
Oh, sure. Well, it's, there's definitely a lot more into starting a business than I think most people will tell you. And even the people that do tell you, you don't know until you actually do it, quite frankly. I'm very lucky. We're working with somebody right now who he's, been in the industry for years. He's opened up clubs and everything. So he's kind of been like our project manager in a way. And he's kind of been coaching me and teaching me, hey, here's the next 3 things we have to do for this place to open. Let's get them done. I spend the week, I work on everything. We talk at the end of the week. So I'm very lucky that I've got somebody to kind of help guide me, but it's just making sure that you're doing everything right, making sure you're crossing your T's, dotting your I's. If you're starting something like a fitness studio, making sure, you've got all your health license, making sure you have your what else is there? Again, there's so many things to a business. There's just all these things you have to have in place to make sure you're doing it right. So just making sure you're going through the proper channels. If you are able to, try to find someone who's done it before and kind of get some guidance from them. Obviously that's easier said than done, but if you can, that's going to help enormously. But a lot of it's just staying focused and continuing to push forward. And when things get bad, don't quit. There's been, I'll be lying if I didn't say I didn't want to quit a couple of times when this whole thing was going on, because there's going to be a delay, or this is going to get held back, or, oh, this isn't really going to work. We got to change this. And you kind of get knocked down a little bit, but in the end, it's like, hey, I just need to have the space. We just need to make sure that it's functioning. We can have people inside, people can work out. Again, coming back to the simplicity of it's a gym. That's all it needs to be. Make sure I can have 4 walls. People can train, they can leave, and they can feel great. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, what's been the biggest challenge for you personally in building this thing up?
Biggest challenge, I think, for me personally would probably be trying to get over my imposter syndrome a little bit. Kind of going back to the confidence of being an entrepreneur and knowing what you're talking about. That doesn't come overnight. It was years of doing things and learning things and realizing that I maybe am not as good as I thought I was. There's a thing called what's the effect? I think it's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of that? Where you start off new skill, you're a beginner, you think you know everything, and then you realize, oh, I don't actually know anything. You kind of go into this slump of like, oh, I don't know nothing, and then all of a sudden you begin to learn and you become an actual expert as time goes on. So that's what I felt myself. I mean, I felt that in every sense of the word. I felt I felt like I was it. I was the best Orange Theory coach this whole thing. I had an arrogance about me. That sure as hell got cut down when I moved to South Florida. And I felt like I was the worst coach. I felt like I was the worst trainer. And then over the years, eventually it was like, no, you do know what you're doing. Just continue to learn, continue to apply what you're doing. And now I feel like I'm at a place where I feel good. And it's, I think it's like the plateau of sustainability. Like you can sustain what you know. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's so funny you say that too. And I think it's really a powerful insight because, even through the conversations I've had over the past 6 months, people that are, light years ahead of where I am and that are doing, $1 million a month plus in their business now, they still say, oh no, I have these thoughts. They come up, these thoughts of like, you don't know what you're doing. You're not going to be able to. And I think that's just every level of business is just a reflection of a skill set, right? Or a mental skill set that we are lacking or need to develop. And I've noticed that with myself, especially there is like this learning curve of, okay, you start something new, even if you're taking knowledge that you've had for years and applying it in a different format, right? Like with what you're doing here, but you hit that new area, there's uncertainty. You go through this lull of like, I suck, I can't do this. This is not for me. And just being able to push through that and realizing on the other side, there's the upside of it. So.
Absolutely. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. So where you're at now, right? Getting ready to launch in June, getting ready to open up, having gone through everything you have so far, is there anything that you would tell your younger self about building this business? Piece of advice?
Probably give more stuff away sooner. Give more content away, like more knowledge, build more relationships. And again, it's what I do. It's not going to apply to every field and every industry, but when it comes to fitness, giving away your knowledge for free in the beginning, I think is very valuable. I heard a great quote. It was, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
So, you kind of have to build a relationship first, and then you can start to, word vomit all the information you know about the body onto that person in a sense. But no, you have to show, I think showing people that you really, really care in the beginning, they'll listen to whatever you have to say. They'll be like, listen, yeah, I want to make my shoulders better. I trust you. And so, you tell them exactly how to work their shoulders. They're going to look better. I think that's very important. I don't think enough trainers do that. I think they have this like air about themselves where I know everything and you need to listen to me because I'm the expert. And the person that's the trainee just assumes, okay, yeah, you're the trainer, I'm going to listen to you. But there's never that real like kind of emotional connection that you need to have, I think, with the client and the trainer. So I think that's something I would go back and tell myself, like, hey, listen, man, you got to get on this even sooner, get on this earlier, build more relationships, give more stuff away, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. How have you seen what you've done up until this point? Have you seen that kind of, I don't know if payoff is the best word, but how have you seen that circle back around to you?
It's paid off immensely. I mean, some of my best friends in the whole world I've met through this free boot camp that I've been doing for the last couple of years. I mean, they're some of the best, most genuine people. I truly can't say enough good things about them, but that's that to me is how it's kind of paid off. And as I said, I've made some incredible friendships. I've made some incredible relationships. And now the best part is a lot of these people, they're joining my gym. So I look at it like, oh, I get to just hang out with my friends all day long now. It's weird. I'm going into business, but it almost doesn't kind of feel that way because I'm so happy with the way everything is going. So that's, I think, how it's come full circle for me. And I can only hope that more people can experience that as well. But you got to work, you got to grind. You have to, again, it didn't happen overnight. This is me, I'm 31, 32 years old. And all I've ever done my whole professional life is fitness. So they say, you can't be jumping around to different careers and expect all of a sudden, have everything happen to you at once. It's a lot of work. And every older entrepreneur will tell you that. I know young entrepreneurs up and coming will say, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And this is how it's worked.
Right. The power of focus. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. So Tyler, what would you say is, if you had to pick one thing or one factor that is a huge determining factor in your success, what would that be?
I would say the ability to analyze. I think being able to look at something like if you have a problem in your business and you recognize it's a problem, but if you don't analyze it and realize how to fix it, the problem's still going to be there and nothing's going to get better. So I think it's very, very important that you're very self-critical, that you don't buy into your own BS, that you buy into it enough to where you have confidence, but not so much to where you're arrogant. There's a very fine line between confidence and arrogance. And you kind of have to have a little bit of both sometimes. You kind of have to, you got to be confident in what you know. So that's what I would probably say. I'd probably just say make sure you have the confidence.
Yeah, love that. Cool. Okay, so let's say you had to start all over. What would you do in the first 30 days?
Oh, back to what I said, give more stuff away for free. Now, first 30 days, immediately get up some type of social media, get something going where I can start to promote and start to give away the content for free, get all the channels up and running. You kind of just have to go back to the very, very basics. Like, hey, where's my pool of people? What can I, how can I market to them? And then, how can I get them to meet at a place at a certain time where I can show them what I know, show them that level of caring, and then hopefully have them come back. And then hopefully, they want to train with me one-on-one, or they want to do a private boot camp for them and their friends, and start to snowball that way. And it's a slow process, but eventually it does, eventually it does pay off as long as you're consistent.
Yeah. And I love that you use the word snowball, right? We talk about a flywheel, a content flywheel, and that's exactly what it is. What's your leverage point and how can you do this efficiently? And then eventually it starts to snowball. So
100%.
I think that's really
Absolutely.
important. Cool. As we kind of wrap up here, I would love to just dive a little bit deeper into your philosophy behind Level Up, kind of the programming, and let's geek out a little bit on the fitness side there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, what exactly do you want to know? Do you want to know like what the workout is going to be, or like what the I guess the concept is, or?
Yeah, give us like the high level, the through line philosophy behind your programming there.
Okay. So yeah, the whole idea behind Level Up is, I'm trying to. There's a big push in the fitness industry now for strength training, and there always has been. It's just now people are realizing like, oh, strength, lifting weights is actually a way to create longevity in your fitness, in your physical capabilities. There's been tons of ties to weight loss and obviously muscle building from strength training. But I think that none of people properly know how to do it. I mean, people don't know how to properly strength train. We saw at Orange Theory, people come in, they get the weight side, and they look like they've never. I shouldn't generalize, but there's a lot of people but the general population, most people don't know how to move well. I'm just being perfectly honest, myself included. If you've never done something before, how could you expect to know how to do it properly? Right. So I think there's a massive market for an education in how to properly move. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of taking some of those bigger exercises I think people would be more scared of, like things like barbell squats, maybe things like barbell rows, barbell deadlifts, kettlebell swings. There's a lot of these big exercises that people would love to maybe do, but they're afraid to start or they don't know how to approach them. So I'm basically going to be breaking down some of those bigger movements into smaller progressions. So that way, everyone in the class can be doing that same exercise, but at a level or at a progression that's going to be very effective for them. And it's going to be safe, and it's going to allow them to get the best results in that moment. And as they do more and more workouts, they will eventually hopefully go to the higher levels, add more sophistication to the exercise, and then be able to do more. And then their body is also going to change as a result. So it's going to be kind of like a full circle. You come in here, you work your tail off, try to get to the highest level, do your best, and the results will come.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you're breaking down, those movements that a lot of times people can either be intimidated by or take for granted. Right. So I think that's super important. Going back to the primal movement patterns.
Yes. Or more. Yeah, that's exactly it. Those the basic movement patterns of the body. I mean, we know how to do them when we're kids, when we're babies. You look at someone's newborn, they're doing perfect squats, they're doing everything properly. And then we forget how to do that stuff as an adult. Yeah. So it's very important that I think we reteach ourselves. And again, if you want to live a long, fun life, where you're able to move around and be active and, play with your kids, grandkids, you have to do this stuff. You got to take that 30 minutes to an hour a day or 4 or 5 days a week and put your body through some hell. Yeah.
Exactly. That's so true. Cool. So let's wrap up with our rapid fire I say one word, really the last one is probably like 2 to 3 words, but responses. So I've got 3 questions for you here and just 2 to 3 words, fill in the blank. You ready?
Go for it.
Okay. To be successful in entrepreneurship, you need to.
I'm going to say grind and analyze. I like my word analyze because you have to do that.
I like that. One thing to watch out for is.
Oh my God, this is not a lightning round. I'm going to say self-doubt. Don't doubt yourself too much because, I think that consumes people more than the negative outside influences. People saying, "No, I don't know. Is this a good idea? Can you do it?" I think it's what's up here that really gets people.
I agree.
So, negative self-talk.
Yeah. Last one. When you feel stuck, remember to
find there's always another way. There's usually always another way to do something. If there's one way that you think is the only way, more than likely someone else has found another method of doing it. So don't be afraid to look under rocks. Don't be afraid to, look and see if there's another path, make your own path. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. You gave so much value here. And then if people want to learn more about you or level up in Boca Raton, where should they go? Yeah. So people can go to, it's www.levelupfit.Florida, and level is with no E's, and Florida is just FL. So it's levelupfitflorida.com. We're on Instagram, Level Up Florida, or Level Up Fit Florida rather. We're on Facebook. So we have all of our social media outlets going. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. It's Tyler Ross. I have a lot of, free content and workouts up on my pages as well. So people can check me out there, reach out to me if they have any questions about it. And Gianna, I can't thank you enough for having me on. This was great. I really hope I provided you and your listeners a lot of good content, a lot of good information. And I hope you have me back on again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Tyler.
Awesome. Thanks, Gianna.